The Dogon Tribe Knowledge. The brightest star of our planet's night sky is called Sirius, located in the constellation of Canis Major. It is a single star with a slightly bluish-white glow. But actually, it is known since 1862 that the star Sirius is actually a system of two stars, except one of them is invisible to the naked eye. Some form of advanced telescope is needed to observe its companion, and those weren't invented until the 19th century, so no human on Earth could have ever known about Sirius' two-star system before that time. But the Dogon are not just any human. The Dogon are a tribe of people currently living in Mali, Africa, and whose origin goes back several centuries, probably 1,000 years. The astronomical knowledge contained in their stories and traditions, especially about the Sirius star system, which they call Tolo, is so outstanding and inexplicable that an anthropologist by the name of Marcel Griol was willing to spend 10 whole years living with them, so that they would finally tell him everything they knew about the stars. Marcel arrived in Mali in 1931 and left having earned the trust of the Dogon and learned their secrets for a decade. He went on to write 2 books where he shares their oral traditions, which have been passed down for centuries, and surprises the academic world with wild claims such as, this remote tribe of primitive people was aware of Sirius B, the faint white dwarf companion to the brighter Sirius A. They called the latter Sigi Tolo, and the former Po Tolo. They precisely knew the time it took for Sirius B to complete an orbit around Sirius A, 50 years. They knew that the larger of the two was even more massive than our Sun, and that the smaller one was about the size of our planet Earth. They claimed that Sirius B was made of very heavy and dense material. This claim in particular is of paramount importance in the veracity of their stories, because the scientific community had no idea whatsoever about the material said star was made of. It wouldn't be until 2005, some 7 decades after this Dogon story went public, that NASA would confirm Sirius B is a dead star, with 25,000 times greater density than that of Earth. But isn't it possible that we are just taking a Eurocentric approach to this matter? After all, the premise of it is that this tribe of primitive people had advanced astronomical knowledge, but there is no way they could have developed the technology it takes to obtain this knowledge before the Western civilization. Maybe we're just making too many assumptions about the Dogon and their development. So why not ask them? How did they say that they came to possess this information? And here is where the skeptics just roll their eyes and the explanation becomes too blasphemous for the mainstream environment. Because it turns out the answer to how the Dogon know so much about the stars is not that they secretly developed some sort of telescope before the 19th century and studied the cosmos for centuries. The answer is aliens. Amphibious extraterrestrial beings known as the Nomo, which translates to the teachers, are the ones responsible for the Dogon's impossible understanding of the cosmos. To mainstream skeptics, this is a disappointing explanation. To alternative theories, it is but the expected explanation, judging by the antiquity of the story and the level of development of the Dogon tribe. And one last interesting prediction they have for us is related to the origin of the Nomo. According to their tales, these beings did come from the Sirius star system, but not from Sigitolo or Potolo, Sirius A or Sirius B, but from Emeya Tolo, a neighboring star to the previous ones, a supposed Sirius C that we haven't discovered yet. So, will the Dogon be correct in this prediction? If so, it would have become impossible to deny what we already suspect, that humans are not alone. We never were, and we always had teachers and guides from out of this world sharing with us the deep wisdom of this beautiful universe. Psychic Ingo Swann. The concept of remote viewing is often dismissed as a pseudoscience, but public ridicule didn't seem to be a deterrent for the infamous three-letter agency or the Stanford Research Institute, when in the early 1970s they invited a man by the name of Ingo Douglas Swann to partake in a special project regarding the realistic potential applications for military and intelligence purposes of the previously mentioned psychic ability. Swann worked closely with physicists Russell Targ and Harold E. Puthoff, who were leading the remote viewing research efforts at SRI. Together, they developed and refined the protocols and methodologies for conducting remote viewing experiments. Swann's natural talent and success in remote viewing played a crucial role in shaping these protocols. In one of his remote viewing sessions at SRI, Swann was tasked with describing a secret research facility in the Soviet Union that was not publicly known at the time. He provided detailed information about the facility's function, layout, and the presence of certain types of equipment. Intelligence efforts, including satellite imagery and other sources, later confirmed the existence of the facility, and the details Swann provided aligned with the actual characteristics of the site. Ingo Swann was one of the key individuals involved in the US government's remote viewing program known as Project Stargate. Under this program, Swann and other remote viewers were tasked with various intelligence-related missions, including locating missing persons, gathering information on enemy activities, and assessing the potential of remote viewing for military and intelligence purposes. But Ingo's reach wasn't restricted to planet Earth. In fact, he revealed information on the Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, and others that was later verified. In a remote viewing session at SRI, Swann was asked to describe a target on the Moon's far side, which was not visible from Earth. Swann's description of the target included details about a specific crater, including its size, shape, and the presence of a prominent central peak. Subsequent exploration of the Moon by NASA's Apollo missions confirmed the accuracy of Swann's descriptions. The crater he had described matched a real feature on the Moon's surface. In another remote viewing session conducted at the same place, Ingo was tasked with describing the planet Mercury. He provided detailed information about Mercury's atmosphere, which was not confirmed by conventional scientific knowledge at the time, but his description of a thin, wispy atmosphere was later confirmed by NASA's Mariner 10 mission, which visited Mercury in 1974 and provided data supporting his remote viewing impressions. In the early 1970s, during one of his first sessions, Swann was asked to describe the planet Jupiter. His remote viewing session yielded information about Jupiter's unique features, including the presence of a ring system. Now, as we all know, Jupiter doesn't have any rings, so maybe he just mistook Jupiter for Saturn? No, because several years later, in 1979, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft captured images and data that confirmed the existence of Jupiter's ring system. This confirmation was seen as a remarkable validation of Swann's remote viewing abilities, as he had described the rings before their existence was officially recognized in the scientific community. He went on to provide more details about the planet in question. However, those are not publicly accessible due to the classified nature of the research. Now, it has to be said that Ingo Swann wasn't always accurate in his remote viewing descriptions, but what I personally find mind-blowing is the fact that he's been able to predict several times the exact location, shape, and features of objects and events that are just impossible to assess without the help of advanced technology. It's certainly interesting that people would so quickly call individuals like Ingo a fraud, without even looking at the data. This is yet another reason why one must go through life with an open mind and remember that just because current science cannot explain it, it does not mean it's not real. Ramanujan's mystical knowledge. In 1913, renowned British mathematician G.H. Hardy received a letter from India written by a mysterious man named Ramanujan. The letter contained several bold and unusual claims, such as having found relationships between infinite series and formulas for prime numbers. These claims were unlike anything Hardy had encountered before, so initially he was skeptical, but the formulas intrigued him, and he recognized that the writer had a deep and unique mathematical insight. So he requested more details, and as the correspondence continued, Hardy became more fascinated by this strange mathematician from abroad. He and his colleagues couldn't possibly fathom how someone with no formal training in pure mathematics could come up with such advanced results. But the thing is, Ramanujan didn't need a math teacher, because his knowledge, he said, was revealed to him by the goddess Namagiri. Srinivasa Iyengar Ramanujan was born on December 22, 1887 in Erodi, a town in Tamil Nadu, India. His family was not well off, and he grew up in a humble and traditional South Indian environment. His formal education was limited, and he attended local schools where he showed some mathematical talents, and was often uninterested in other subjects. But Ramanujan's true mathematical journey began when he was around 13 or 14 years old. It is said that he stumbled upon a library book by mathematician S.L. Loney, Advanced Trigonometry. This book was a major turning point in his life, and Ramanujan became deeply engrossed and began to devour its contents. His mathematical insights often had a mystical and spiritual dimension. He claimed that many of his discoveries came to him in the form of visions or dreams. He believed a goddess, often identified as Namagiri Thyre of Namakal, bestowed these mathematical insights upon him. According to his accounts, the goddess would appear to him and reveal mathematical equations and formulas during these visions. One of the most famous stories involves Ramanujan's encounter with the goddess in a dream. She showed him an infinite series that was later recognized as the value of the reciprocal of the number pi. Ramanujan saw this as a divine revelation, and he considered these insights as gifts from a higher power. Infinity is often associated with Ramanujan's works, which is why, for example, the 2015 film based on his life story is called The Man Who Knew Infinity. Some of the mathematical concepts revealed to him by Namagiri include infinite series. In his visions, he saw a wealth of infinite series and formulas which often had remarkable properties and a personality to them. He famously provided infinite series representations for mathematical constants like pi and Euler's number. Modular forms. Ramanujan's work on modular forms and Mach theta functions, which are a type of modular form, play a significant role in number theory, and Ramanujan's contributions in this area were groundbreaking. Also, his work on prime numbers and his famous congruences in partition theory were both heavily inspired by these mystical experiences. But his discoveries weren't only relevant to the mathematics of his time. In fact, some 9 decades later, in 2012, American mathematician Ken Ono came up with a formula that allowed scientists to further study black holes in depth. Ken admitted that his work was influenced by a letter Ramanujan wrote on his deathbed in 1920 to Hardy, outlining several new mathematical functions never before heard of, along with a hunch about how they worked. Ono, along with colleagues, worked on deciphering and proving many of the conjectures and theorems found in his notebook. This work led to advancements in the theory of partitions, Mach modular forms, and Q-series. Srinivasa Ramanujan was truly a blessing to the mathematical world. His mere existence is proof that excellence can come from the most unexpected and humblest of places. Let him serve as an inspiration for modern academics to always be in the search of these great minds, because if a single book of trigonometry was enough to awaken his spark of knowledge, one can only imagine what geniuses like him could achieve in modern times, when we have access to all the information in the world. Hey there again, this was 3 alternative theories versus science. My name is Hector and I always enjoy making this type of content. If you have any suggestions for future videos, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Without further ado, I love you all and I'll see you in the next one.